everything you ever wanted or needed to know about politics right here. Julie Roginsky, Democratic strategist and principal of BARO Strategies, and also Dale Florio, Republican strategist, managing partner, Princeton Public Affairs Group. Julie and Dale, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Hey, Steve.
We are taping this only a week after the election. It'll be seen a little bit later, so let's not date ourselves. Julie, the Democrats got crushed because?
We don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to speak to voters in their own voice and on their own level. We preach and we scold and we don't listen. That's why we lost.
And Dale, Donald Trump and the Republicans taking over in Congress won for a lot of reasons. The most significant is?
Just energy, right? I mean, you can say anything you want about Donald Trump. He just creates energy. He talks in simple sentences that people understand, to Julie's point, right? I mean, listen, I think the Democrats put the vice president in a very just almost impossible to win situation. You know, we can talk about what she could have done or said, but, you know, just a difficult situation to even have the president go through that first debate. There should have been a serious conversation about how he chooses not to run again. It was tough.
Julie, let me ask you something. You've always been the kind of so-called Democratic strategist who's never afraid to be critical of the Democrats when they need to be criticized. Why the heck do you think the Democrats, or the leaders in the Democratic Party, whatever that means, didn't have an honest discussion a couple of years ago and say, we're going to talk to the president. He clearly can't run again. Let's have an open primary. Let's see who wins. Why was that so hard?
Because I think when you're working in the White House, two things happen. This happens in the governor's office as well here in New Jersey. This happens everywhere, right? One is you start drinking the Kool-Aid because you support your principle. That's why you're there. You're loyal to your principle. And if you're not loyal to your principle, you got to get out. So from that perspective, clearly they were loyal to their boss. And two is that I think they probably assumed that because they saw him day to day and he was functioning just fine. And from people who I know who see him all the time, he is very much with it. Maybe he's not speaking as eruditely as he once did, although he was never particularly erudite. But, you know, he's not
by a public forum. Not in a public forum.
But well, this was the first time we saw him in a public forum. And that's, I think, part of the problem, right? Is that we didn't know how he was going to do. None of them probably assumed he was going to do as poorly as he did until he did. But I think a lot of it has to do with just, look, why did Phil Murphy's staff defend him on some really indefensible things? Because, and why did Chris Christie's staff defend him on some indefensible things? And then I can go back, you know, governor after governor. It's not a partisan issue.
So the emperor has clothes on, even when the emperor does not have clothes, Julie?
It is your job to convince everybody else that the emperor has clothes. That's the hallmark of being
the emperor.
Staffer. I'm sorry?
What about to the emperor? Don't you need to tell the emperor, hey, you're naked? Got no clothes?
If you are a good staffer, and most importantly, if you have a principal who wants to hear it, then yes. But I have to tell you, and Dale, correct me if I'm wrong, I have worked for very, very many politicians, and there are very few and far between who actually want to hear the truth.
Hey, listen, I agree with Julie. I mean, she's absolutely right. It was a hard situation. Very, very difficult. I'm just saying that they put the vice president almost in an unwinnable situation, right? Just, you know, very difficult for her to win.
Let me ask this. Go ahead, Julie, because I want to talk policy as well as, because both of you, go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, the other thing I want to add, and Dale touched on this a little bit, is, look, I think the American people, ever since, at least since the 2008 crash, but probably even prior to that, really hate politicians. They want people who seem genuine, right? And so, for example, Chris Christie always did very well, even in a blue state, because he seemed genuine. You might like him or not like him, but he seemed like a real guy. Hillary Clinton didn't seem so genuine, but Donald Trump did, which is why I think he won. In 2020, Biden was a real guy, Scranton Joe, right? People understood him. And Trump was. And this time around, Trump, despite being around for 10 years, still doesn't seem like a politician. He still seems like a real guy. Now, you know, you might debate that issue, but that's how he is perceived by people. And I think for the next person who runs on the Democratic ticket, they have to really be authentic. Authenticity is the key. They have to stop being worried about pissing off one coalition or another. They have to speak plainly. They have to be themselves. And that's really, really crucial going forward.
Talk about pissing off coalitions, Dale. Let's talk policy. The President Trump argues that he is going to engage in mass deportation. He talks about tariffs immediately, China in particular, tariffs in China. talks about a whole range of things. On day one, going to be done. You understand government better than most. How hard is it going to be for him, even with a Republican Congress, to act on those things effectively? Please, Dale.
I am sure that there's going to be dozens and dozens of executive orders that attempt to do some of these things.
Explain to folks executive orders versus going through the legislative process, Dale.
Sure thing. An executive order is delivered by the chief executive, be it a president or a governor, that directs a government agency to do this or to do that, or it puts in a policy that needs to be followed. Now, those executive orders can be challenged in court by a Congress, but if he has both houses, that may not be the case, or somebody else could challenge it. But executive orders tend to carry a lot of weight and are very successful, especially at the presidential level. So he could do all those things that you just described, Steve.
Can he do that with tax policy? Can he extend the 2017 tax breaks or tax cuts, if you will, for wealthier folks, for corporations and others? Can he do that by himself? My understanding is he can't.
When it comes to fiscal policy, it's a different story. He's not on solid ground when it comes to those types of things.
Julie, tax policy. The president wants to cut taxes for whom, Julie Roginsky?
Elon Musk, the person that delivered the White House to him. I mean, the Trump tax cuts the first time around truly benefited the very wealthiest among us disproportionately. That's not a debate. That's just a fact. But I will say, for anybody who voted for him because they thought that there'd be mass deportations or because they thought somehow you'd be paying less because of tariffs, because China was going to pay for it, I've got bad news. You want your strawberries to be about $15 a pint, support the deportations. You want your iPhone to be about $3,000 that you buy for your kids or for yourself for Christmas, ask for those tariffs. I mean, you know, much like Mexico didn't build that wall in the first term, nobody's paying for these deportations and nobody's paying for these tariffs except the American people. And I think it all sounds very good on paper, but in reality, when it happens, it's going to be awful. And by the way, for all the Latinos in places like Passaic who voted for Donald Trump, when he comes to Abuela, you have nobody to blame but yourself. Because the best interview that I saw recently was with a shop owner, I think somewhere either in New York or New Jersey, who's Latino, who said, yes, I voted for Trump, but he's not going to be coming after families. He's just going to be coming after the bad guys. Well, no, actually, this person who's going to be in charge of these deportations said, if you are here illegally and you've been here for 30 or 40 years and you married a citizen and you have children who were born here, you're getting out of this country. And if you want to stay together as a family, everybody's got to get out.
Yeah, you don't believe that's going to happen, do you?
Do I?
No, I know, Julie, I know you do. I'm asking Dale.
Okay. The devil is always in the details, right, Steve? Campaigns are full of buzzwords. Mass deportation. Immigration was a huge issue. He sold it. The logistics of what he ultimately does could be an entirely different story.
And tax policy.
I'd be really surprised if there was mass deportations. I really would.
Would you be surprised if there were tax cuts extended, Dale?
I would not be surprised if tax cuts are extended, maybe not by executive order, but I think there'll be an attempt in Congress. There may not be enough votes for that. But
do you think the majority of Americans who don't make $200,000, $300,000 or more are multimillionaires, billionaires, et cetera? Do you think the vast majority of folks who voted for President Trump will get those benefits?
I think if they see buying eggs at the grocery store going down, I don't think that they're going to care if somebody that's making more money than me gets a tax cut because they want to see what impact it has on them. If it helps them keep their job, if it helps them get better prices on things that they want to buy, we understand how tax policy works, right? The people that have more money invest that money, which then creates other jobs and keeps businesses going.
Complex stuff. Go ahead, Julie. Final word. 20 seconds. Go.
20 seconds. January 20th, 12:01 p.m. Donald Trump is going to take credit for the greatest economy in the world, Joe Biden's economy. So let's see what happens with his economy. But at 12:01 p.m., every Republican is going to say we're living in the age of prosperity.
Julie Roginsky, Dale Florio. Interesting stuff. Fascinating times. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Dale. Good stuff.
Thanks, Steve.
Stay with us. You got it. We'll be right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 30 years in public broadcasting. Funding has been provided by PSC&G, Holy Name, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey Sharing Network, New Brunswick Development Corporation, Delta Dental of New Jersey, Community Food Bank of New Jersey, and by NJM Insurance Group. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Globe and by NJ Biz.
Since 1903, PSEG has worked to keep our commitment to customers and communities, to keep your lights on and homes warm. We're there when challenges strike, like storms or economic uncertainty. We're preparing for tomorrow by working to replace aging infrastructure, provide carbon-free nuclear energy, and deliver energy-efficient options to customers. PSEG, powering progress.